It's pouring. I'm standing under the eave of my house, watching a thunderstorm dump water on my roof, and that water is running down into a row of barrels along the wall, filling them, one after another. By the time this storm blows through in 20 minutes, I'll have caught somewhere north of 500 gallons, enough to water my entire garden for weeks. The town I live in is on summer water restrictions right now. You can only run a sprinkler on certain days, and there are fines if you don't. But my garden's going to drink free, clean, soft rainwater straight off the sky all the way through the dry month, while my neighbors pay the utility for treated drinking water to spray on their lawns. The whole setup cost me under $100. The idea is thousands of years old. And here's the part that still makes me shake my head. For more than a century in several American states, what I'm doing right now, catching the rain off my own roof, was against the law. After the Greywater video, the question that came up again and again was this: Gary, that's great while I'm doing laundry, but in a real drought with watering bans, where does the water actually come from? And the answer was falling on your roof the whole time. Because right now you are doing something that, when you really look at it, makes no sense at all. Every time it rains, hundreds of gallons of perfectly clean water land on your house, run straight into your gutters, down the downspout, and into a storm drain. Gone. And then, a week later, in the dry spell, you turn on a hose and pay your water utility for treated drinking water to pour on your tomatoes. You let the free water escape, and then you buy it back. Here's the number that should stop you. For every inch of rain that falls on 1,000 square feet of roof, you get about 600 gallons of water. 600. Most houses have well over 1,000 square feet of roof, so a single ordinary 1-inch rainstorm is shedding the better part of 1,000 gallons off your house, and a good summer thunderstorm drops more than that in an afternoon. That water is cleaner than what comes out of your tap for a garden's purposes. It's soft, it has no chlorine, no fluoride, no dissolved minerals, and plants flat out prefer it. And you are sending essentially all of it down the storm drain, then turning around in August and paying for municipally treated drinking water, filtered, chlorinated, pressurized, the works, to do a job the sky was trying to do for free. In a lot of towns, summer water use doubles or triples because of outdoor watering. You're paying premium prices in the exact season the rain already gave you what you needed, if you'd only caught it. Now here's the physics, and there's almost nothing to it, which is the beautiful part. A roof is a giant funnel. It's already shaped to collect water and channel it to one point. That's what a downspout is. All rainwater harvesting does is put a container at the bottom of that funnel instead of a hole in the ground. You intercept the downspout with a simple diverter, send the water into a barrel or a tank, and gravity does the rest. No pump, no power, nothing to run. If you raise the barrel up on a couple of cinder blocks, you even get enough pressure from gravity alone to run a soaker hose out to the garden. That's it. That's the entire technology. Catch what's already being funneled to one spot and hold on to it until the dry day comes. The sky fills it for free, and gravity empties it into your garden for free. There is no machine in this system at all. Now, you don't just stick an open barrel under a spout and walk away. There are 3 small pieces that make it work right, and I'll come back to them in the honest section because they matter. But the core of it is exactly that simple: a downspout, a diverter, a screened container, and gravity. This is one of the oldest things people have ever built. Long before anyone piped water to a house, civilizations in dry places lived and died by catching the rain. They built cisterns under their courtyards and carved them into bedrock. The Romans designed their houses around a central basin called an impluvium that funneled roof rain into a tank below. Whole cities in the ancient world, in places that barely saw rain, survived for centuries on nothing but the water they caught off their rooftops. Catching rain isn't a fringe survival trick. For most of human history, in most dry places, it was simply how you had water at all. So how did catching rain off your own roof become illegal? This is the part that sounds made up, and it isn't. Out west, water law runs on a doctrine called prior appropriation. The idea that the rights to water in a watershed are spoken for, often 100 years ago, by downstream users with senior claims. And under the strictest reading of that law, the rain that lands on your roof isn't yours. It's legally promised to someone downstream, and by catching it, you're technically stealing water from the river it would have eventually run into. For over a century in Colorado, collecting rainwater was effectively illegal for most homeowners. Not until 2016 did the state finally pass a law letting an ordinary household put out rain barrels at all, and even then capped at 2 barrels. Utah and Washington had their own versions before reforming them. Think about that. A law that said the storm hitting your own house belonged to somebody else. The water was always there. The paperwork said you couldn't have it. Now, the honest part, because rainwater is fantastic for some things and genuinely dangerous for others, and I need you to know the difference. The single most important thing, this is irrigation water, not drinking water. Do not drink rainwater off your roof, and don't let anyone talk you into it without serious treatment, because that water has washed over shingles, past bird droppings, through dust and pollen and whatever's on your roof, and it can carry bacteria and contaminants you cannot see. For watering a garden, that's no problem. Soil and sun handle it. For drinking, it needs real filtration and disinfection, and that's a whole separate subject. Second, standing water breeds mosquitoes, so every container has to be sealed and screened, with fine mesh over every opening, and you want to use the water within a week or so rather than letting it sit for a month. Third, those 3 pieces I mentioned, a screen at the top to keep out leaves and debris, a first flush diverter, a simple device that catches and discards the first few gallons off the roof, the dirtiest water that rinses off all the grime before the clean water starts filling your barrel, and an overflow outlet that routes the extra water away from your foundation once the barrel's full. A few more. If your roof is asphalt shingle, keep the water on the soil and the roots rather than spraying the leaves of things you eat raw, and let the soil do the filtering. If you're somewhere that freezes, drain the system before winter or it'll crack. And check your own local rules and any HOA, because while most places have come around, a few corners still regulate this. Get those right, and a rain system is about the most foolproof thing you can build. Skip them and you get mosquitoes, a wet foundation, or a cracked barrel, so don't skip them. And the scale is up to you. The cheap start is a single food-grade barrel under 1 downspout for about $50. Want more? Link several barrels together so they fill in sequence. Want serious capacity? A used IBC tote holds 275 gallons and often costs under $100. And 2 or 3 of those off your main downspouts will bank well over half a ton of water from a single storm. You can start with 1 barrel this weekend and grow it as far as your roof and your yard allow. Before I show you what it did for Hank, the part I think about every dry July. Everything I've built on this channel is now in one place. The cooling system, the hot water box, the heating wall, the gray water pipe, the stove, the root cellar, this. Every diagram, every part, every measurement. It's all at GaryStips.com, link in the description. But stay here, because Hank's garden in a drought is the whole point. Hank's got a big vegetable garden a few miles from me, and for years he had the same heartbreak every summer. He'd nurse it through spring, and then around late July, the town would slap on watering restrictions in the middle of the dry stretch, and he'd stand there and watch the thing he'd worked on all season burn up, not allowed to water it, and couldn't have afforded the bill if he were. 2 summers ago, we set him up. 4 IBC totes off the 2 big downspouts on his house and garage, screened, first flush, overflow routed to a low spot. He banks over 1,000 gallons off a single good storm now. That first dry August, while the restrictions were on and his neighbors' gardens went brown, his was the only green yard on the road, running entirely off rain he'd caught back in June. His summer water bill dropped hard, but what he kept saying wasn't about the money. It was that for the first time, he wasn't at the mercy of a watering schedule or a drought, because he had his own water, sitting right there in the tanks, caught from the sky for free. He didn't drill a well, he didn't pay for a drop. He just stopped letting the rain run into the gutter. That's the knowledge that kept dry civilizations alive for thousands of years. The cistern under the courtyard, the Roman impluvium, the rooftop tanks of cities that barely saw rain. Everywhere people faced a dry season, the answer was the same. The sky gives you water for free, in bulk, on a schedule you don't control. So you catch it when it comes and hold it for when it doesn't. There was never a moment when that stopped working. There was only a strange century when a tangle of old water law in a few states declared that the rain on your own roof belonged to someone else, and a lot of people quietly assumed catching it must be wrong everywhere. But the storm doesn't read the statute. It rolls in over your house and dumps 1,000 gallons of clean, free water onto a roof already shaped to funnel it to one spot, asking only that you put something there to catch it. They didn't lose this. In some places, they were literally told it wasn't allowed. Now you know it mostly is, and how to do it. So drop your state in the comments and tell me what your water bill does in the worst month of summer. And tell me if your town puts you on watering restrictions, because that's exactly when this pays off. And if your family ever kept a rain barrel at the corner of the house or a cistern out back, tell me about it, because that and these tanks are the same idea wearing a different name. If you believe the rain that falls on your own roof ought to be yours to keep, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, because next week I'm showing you how to turn that caught rainwater or pond water or creek water into water that's actually safe to drink, using nothing but layers of sand and gravel in a barrel. A filter so simple and so effective that aid agencies use it around the world, and almost nobody in America knows they could build one in an afternoon.